But the question here is for you parents. Did you ever ask when you were given a scan to do at routine? Some doctors do it every month. Some doctors do it only when there is a diagnosis, which is great to be made, I'd say. And there are certain doctors who call you in every 15 days, every month, and do a scan. And they look at you and they get a scan done to figure out what's happening without using their hands, without using other modalities of care. But did you ever ask what this scan is going to tell me about my pregnancy, and why do I need to know what I need to know?
This is the Birth Agni podcast, the fire that brings us alive, that burns myths and opens a channel of authentic natural birth stories. This show debunks the many myths of the medicalized births, showcases the plethora of choices a pregnant couple can make to embark on their empowered birth journey. I'm Divya Kapoor, a certified birth and lactation counselor and an aspiring traditional birth attendant. Let's get the flames blazing high.
Ultrasounds. This episode is about ultrasounds. You might wonder that we will speak about technology advancement that ultrasounds are, the science behind it, how they change the very face of maternity system around the world. If you think this is the topic today, this is exactly what we will not discuss. We will, on the other hand, discuss whether ultrasounds are safe for you and your baby, the accuracy of ultrasounds, the real-life experiences of women with it. You will know how to approach ultrasounds in your pregnancy and make crucial decisions around it if you follow till the end of this episode. Also, क्या करना है टेक्नोलॉजी का अगर पता ही नहीं है कि हमारे लिए बेनिफिशियल है भी या नहीं? What are ultrasounds? Not to make it too complicated, ultrasounds have been used to position and find the distance of submarines in the ocean. They work in the waters and send a sound wave in the waters and get it back. Ultrasounds, as we know today, were first started in its preliminary form by Dr. Ian Donald, who was an obstetrician and gynecologist. And the advancement happened over the years, from 2D imaging to 3D, and you have 4D ultrasounds now. This has improved diagnosis when needed and indicated by the human conscious and understanding of a situation, not the other way around. But the question today is, do routine ultrasounds offer any benefit to the mother and baby dyad? The growing popularity of ultrasounds sometimes makes parents wonder, and they also at the same time want to do an ultrasound just to see the baby, and there is no diagnosis to be made. They want to connect with the baby, which is wonderful, but ultrasounds are already routine, and that adds further load of technology into the pregnancy. Did you ever think about that? So there was a law student, Jennifer, who wrote about ultrasounds, naming her article Unsound Ultrasounds in the Journal of Legal Medicine, citing an interview of Tom Cruise, the actor, where he said he bought an ultrasound machine to see the gender of their child with his then girlfriend, Katie Holmes. This led to a huge uproar from the medical community, calling it risky and even unsafe for the growing fetus. Unsafe. Did we even know that that was the slightest chance with ultrasound, that it can be unsafe? This is all that we're going to discuss today and dissect in today's episode. What does research say about the risks of ultrasounds? So there's an excerpt from the article, or you'd say journal, assessing the risks for modern diagnostic ultrasound imaging from the Japanese Journal of Applied Physics. It says, some 35 years after Paul Jacques and Pierre Curie discovered piezoelectricity, which is what is used in ultrasound, ultrasound imaging was developed by Paul Langevin. During this work, ultrasound energy was observed to have a detrimental biological effect. When ultrasound was discovered, it was already known that it has a detrimental biological effect. These observations confirmed a decade later by R.W. Wood and A.L. Loomis. It was not until the early 1950s that ultrasonic exposure conditions were controlled and specified so that the studies could focus on the mechanisms by which ultrasound influenced biological materials. So, a decade later also, there was more research being done in it. In the late 1940s, pioneering work was initiated to image the human body by ultrasonic techniques. These engineers and physicians were aware of the deleterious ultrasound effects at sufficiently high levels. This endeavored them to keep the exposure levels reasonably low. Over the past 3 decades, diagnostic ultrasound has become a sophisticated technology, yet it's very important for all of you parents to know, or parents-to-be to know, that our understanding of the potential risks has not changed appreciably. That's what this journal says. And what brings me to again another business aspect of anything technology is that despite knowing the detrimental effects, more research on it is not done until the amount of money invested to utilize or to really make that discovery is brought back by using it. That's how the business world works, and that may be my assumption. But because not more work was done on finding the bad effects of ultrasound and biological things was never taken forward. So in order to use these ultrasounds, they have to be used at a very, very low level. But it's technology, things can always go here and there. With every technology, you have your voltage in the house that still doesn't work at the same pace. Certain appliances stop working. It is technology. It cannot be foolproof. But the question here is for you parents. Did you ever ask, when you were given a scan to do at routine, some doctors do it every month, some doctors do it only when there is a diagnosis, which is great to be made, I'd say. And there are certain doctors who call you in every 15 days, every month, and do a scan. And they look at you and they get a scan done to figure out what's happening without using their hands, without using other modalities of care. But did you ever ask what this scan is going to tell me about my pregnancy, and why do I need to know what I need to know? What is this diagnosis going to help me with? Can we skip this ultrasound? Probably I don't think I need this one. But unless you ask that question, you'd never know. Or we just keep buying a test method which suits everyone. And we do not know what's happening and why we are happening. We are under the assumption we are under the best care, which is true. You are trying to have the best care, but is everything the best? Or you're just falling into a routine? There was a midwife back then, Marston Wagner, who wrote in Midwifery Today. Midwifery Today, for all of you to know, it is a leading magazine, midwifery magazine, from the 1900s. So she wrote in 1999. The topic was Ultrasounds, More Harm Than Good. This article will be attached to the podcast description because it's a very, very good one. So I urge you all to read the whole of it, not just the excerpt that I read you here. And if you find this information helpful and you are longing to get more of it in this episode and all other episodes where we bring in quality information, authentic information by doing all the research, all the work, we are accepting donations to keep this work going. A price for a coffee. It helps us at times when all this research keeps us up late and all this work is really daunting. We ensure that we keep the quality standardized for you. So if you'd like to donate and support us, you can go to the podcast description and find a link to help us continue this work. So this home birth midwife answers for us how ultrasound became routine. She says, it is not only doctors who have tried to promote ultrasound with statements that go beyond the scientific data. Commercial interests have also played an active role in promoting ultrasound, and not only to doctors and hospitals. As an example, an advertisement in a widely read Sunday newspaper, The Times London, claimed Toshiba decided to design a diagnostic piece of equipment that would be absolutely safe. The name? Ultrasound. A consumer organization in Britain complained to the Advertising Standards Authority that Toshiba was making an untrue claim, and the complaint was upheld. In many countries, the commercial application of ultrasound scanning during pregnancy is widespread, offering baby look, fun ultrasound in order to meet your baby with photographs and come home. A 1993 editorial in the USA makes the following statement. Baby's first picture, a $200 sonogram shot in the womb, is a nice addition to any family album. After a technology that has spread widely in clinical practice, the next step is for the health policymakers to accept it as a standard care financed by the official health sector because it became routine first and safe later. It was utilized, and then, because it became so popular, it became a part of routine, the other way around. Several European countries now have official policy for one or more routine ultrasound scans during pregnancy. For example, in the 1980, the maternity care guidelines in West Germany stated the right of each pregnant woman to be offered at suit 2 routine ultrasounds. Now, what's the future of ultrasound? The procedure has yet not been proved to be safe. This technology is widely used, and its use is increasing rapidly without control. In the United States, for example, a consensus conference on diagnostic ultrasound imaging in pregnancy concluded that the data on clinical effectiveness and safety do not allow recommendation for routine screening at this time. There is a need for multidisciplinary, randomized controlled and clinical trials for an adequate assessment. What this tells us by this midwife in this article is sometimes certain things become routine for the vested interests of people in power. We cannot corner the business aspect of things. Now about the risks of ultrasound. Another research paper talks about it. The safety of exposure to diagnostic ultrasound is evaluated using a structured approach here. Based on the acoustic output of present ultrasound scanners, what does it conclude? It says clearly that there are 4 hazards to any ultrasound: heating, acoustic cavitation, gas body effects, and radiation pressure. This article is also linked for you to read. Heating, meaning it displaces tissues. So when very early a lot of ultrasounds on the baby is done, it can displace tissues. There's a possibility of a physical change in the baby. When a gas bubble in a liquid experiences these variations in pressure of an acoustic wave, the size is driven to change. That's what acoustic cavitation means or gas body effects means. Another study, which calls ultrasounds relatively safe, says safety implies absence of any deleterious effect, recognized and unrecognized. And it must be kept in mind that deleterious effects resulting from ultrasound may be subtle and appear many years after the exposure. So you don't know. You get a healthy baby right now. You think ultrasounds were safe. Oh, in my pregnancy, ultrasounds were safe. Years later, for any radiation to show up and bring up things in the children, we cannot deny that. And then again, it will take 20, 30 years for us to make another regulatory guideline to regulate technology. So use your common sense when you are using technology in any sphere of life, be it health. To answer questions about the effect of ultrasound on human development, long-term follow-up of exposed and unexposed infants is recommended. However, the cost and effort needed for studies of these delayed or subtle effects have discouraged their implementation. That means there's not enough research being done. Moreover, the various studies included in this systematic review did not necessarily assess all the possible harmful biological effects produced by prenatal ultrasound. This study says that they're relatively safe, so they are saying that we have not studied it that thoroughly. Future investigations may reveal effects that are as yet unrecognized. Therefore, as stated in the ALARA, as low as reasonably achievable principle, proposed almost 20 years ago, based on the currently available evidence, it is still prudent to expose patients to the least amount of ultrasound energy necessary to obtain diagnostic information. Now, the technician that is using it, if they're trying to obtain information they don't get to see, they might increase the radiation. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe an ultrasound technician would be better to tell us here. But it's technology at the end of the day. This right here defies the need of routine ultrasounds. Accuracy of ultrasounds now. We've spoken about the risks, potential risks. We have spoken about how they became routine. Now about the accuracy of ultrasounds by the very midwife that spoke about routine ultrasounds, Marston Wagner, from the very paper in Midwifery today. She says, WHO strongly endorses the principle of informed choice with regard to technology use. The healthcare providers have the moral responsibility fully to inform the public about what is known and not known about ultrasound scanning during pregnancy, and fully to inform each woman prior to an ultrasound examination as to the clinical indication for ultrasound, its hope for benefit, its potential risk, and alternatives, if they are available. Many times they are. Then, during the course of 1 month in late 1993, 2 landmark scientific papers were published. The first paper, a largely randomized trial of the effectiveness of routine prenatal ultrasound screening, studied the outcome of more than 15,000 pregnant women who either received 2 routine scans at 15 to 22 weeks and 31 to 35 weeks, or were scanned only for medical indications. Results showed that the mean number of sonograms in the ultrasound groups was 2.2 and in the control group 0.6. The rate of adverse fetal outcome, meaning fetal death, neonatal morbidity, as well as the rate of preterm delivery and distribution of birth weights, was the same for both groups. In addition, in the author's words, the ultrasonic detection of congenital abnormalities has no effect on perinatal outcome. At last, we have a randomized trial of sufficient size to conclude that there is no value to routine scanning during pregnancy. And now here's an example of the experience, or I would rather say the experiences of the women with ultrasound. So I posted a question on my Instagram, and I'm now narrating what these women shared with me while I was preparing for this episode to have their experiences here. The answers are to the question, did ultrasound findings prove wrong in your case? One of them said, yes, scans consistently predicted a 3.3 kg baby. Baby was born at 2.8 kg. Text kept saying baby is average size. And my sister-in-law gave birth to a 4.4 kg baby from Sweden. That's what another mum says. Laura, a budding midwife, says, yes, ultrasounds are deemed 97% accurate, but are only 70%. They planted a fear in me that my baby was big. Another mother was told the baby is too big, and she was forced for a surgery while the baby was born at 2.2 kg. A mum shared how hard it was to navigate pregnancy, choosing to move ahead, to surrender to God, when she was shared that her baby had Down syndrome. NIPT report also came out positively, and thankfully baby was born absolutely fine and healthy. All these stories support the reasoning of the midwife, Maren Wagner. There is one more story that we'll just run here now. And in all these stories, anomalies were discovered, but they were often found to be untrue. And sometimes they were not even diagnosed when they were there. So we're listening to another mom's story here, where how the ultrasound was not true in her case.
I had 4 ultrasounds throughout my pregnancy. The first one was around 8 weeks, and that was just for myself to make sure that the pregnancy wasn't ectopic or anything. And really, that was the only accurate one and the only one that didn't provoke any anxiety. Then around 13 weeks, I had a scan, which the report said that her kidneys were slightly larger than they should have been for that age. And it also indicated that she may have had a choroid plexus cyst, which is a type of cyst in the middle of the brain. So of course that was really alarming, especially I'm a advanced maternal age. So I was worried about, any abnormalities. And so that I stayed in that slightly elevated level of anxiety for a few weeks until around 2 weeks, I had another scan that basically confirmed that there was nothing to worry about in that 12-week scan. Everything had kind of caught up or looked normal again. Then when I shifted to Delhi and getting ready for birth, I thought, okay, let me just have one more scan around 34 weeks. And this was also for me just to make sure the baby was in a good position. But as the doctor was doing this scan, she initially told me the baby was breech, but then, she's moving the wand further down on my belly, and she starts to show me the baby's face. And at this point, the wand is just a little bit above my pubic bone. So I was like, kind of like, even asked her, I was like, how can this baby be breech if you're showing me her face now? That's so far down. And then the doctor claimed that the baby had flipped, though I didn't feel any large movement at that time. And so even after having this conversation with her, when the report came out, it said the baby was breech, but I'm positive even by the end of that report, the baby was wasn't, even if the baby ever was in that position, it definitely wasn't by the end of the report. And then also on that report, she had given a due date, an estimated due date that was probably like a week or 10 days later than what was really accurate based on the first report. So yeah, that definitely shook my faith in how accurate these reports can be. But yeah, it was still, as I said, the first one I was thankful for just because it gave some, kind of actually helpful information. And that estimated due date was actually correct based on that initial report at 8 weeks.
Now, how do you approach ultrasounds? We have all the information we needed. How do we approach ultrasounds? Routine versus necessary. My teacher, a home birth midwife of over 50 years, used to say, request an ultrasound from a family if you need to confirm your diagnosis of an issue, only when the results will change the course of your care for the parents. If not, it's useless. Meaning, a scan to figure out something for a parent who is going to keep the baby is not helpful. It's going to plant a fear that may not be true. If a parent wants to decide, say, that they don't want to keep a baby, if the ultrasound report comes out negative and they know that ultrasounds can be wrong, of course they should go ahead and have an ultrasound. If there are chances of placenta previa, if there are certain other issues diagnosed that need confirmation with ultrasounds, absolutely go ahead. But unfortunately, many parents are never informed why ultrasounds are being done at every visit. To me, sadly, because of the lack of skills of the practitioner who cannot use their hands to get the position, the fluid levels, or anything else, the palpation, the core of obstetric and midwifery work. We are losing the art of care. We are looking at machines and making our diagnosis solely from the machines, and we've stopped looking at the mother. And many women are having unnecessary cesareans and emergencies because of that. If we keep looking at the machine to give us information, we are going to lose the touch, the art of diagnosis, the history taking, the connection, the love, and more so the very art of medicine. So parents, you may think, why does a doctor not tell me these things? WHO does make it mandatory, but unfortunately another study gives you the answer for this. What do clinical users know regarding the safety of ultrasound during pregnancy? An article was published in the Journal of Ultrasound in Medicine, and that says, this study was created to assess the knowledge levels of postgraduate Year 4 obstetrics and gynecology residents and the maternal fetal medicine fellows in the US regarding the safety of obstetric ultrasound and the use of output display standard. Ultrasound end users are poorly informed, that's the conclusion, regarding the safety issues during pregnancy. Further, efforts in the realm of education and training are needed to improve end user knowledge about acoustic output of the machines and safety issues. Now, moms and parents, we have all the information we needed for ultrasounds. You also know that ultrasounds were started as a technology that could benefit certain companies that were making it. They became routine after they were publicized unethically. They definitely have an advantage. Please trust me, I'm not against them. We need technology today more than ever. But we also need to have regulations around technology more than ever. We also do need to have accurate information out to parents more than ever. We are absolutely in a vicious, bad circle of grey and clouds where none of us understand what's happening. So parents, now how do you approach ultrasounds? And I also wanted to add to that what I just said before this, that they became common first, and doctors were informed, or they were stressed upon, and they were trained way less on its safety and efficacy than the routine use. That's how power plays into our lives everywhere. How do you approach ultrasounds? Parents, ask for how many essential ultrasounds do I need, and why do you need them, and to diagnose what. How this will help me in my journey, how this will help the care provider, because you are a team, in their journey. And then remember, do your own research learning about ultrasounds. Listen to yourself, your gut, your intuition. Cultivate that outside of fear. Address your fears. And then, will an ultrasound tell you anything that will help your pregnancy? If you understand that, go for it. And remember, you are the final call for the care you are receiving. You are availing a service, and you can say no to things. That's how you approach ultrasounds. And you approach ultrasounds if it does not change the care for you in your pregnancy and how you'll go about your pregnancy. You do not need to get this ultrasound done. If it does, definitely get this done. That's how my teacher taught me. That's how I think you should also go ahead. Thank you so much for this. We'll come back with another important topic or episode or a story or a postpartum briefing, story, breastfeeding journey very soon. Next week, that is, in our episode. Thank you so much. Do share this episode with people you love and care for. Do give us a rating on Spotify and Apple. Do donate if you like all the effort that we put in. Thank you.
There is a field beyond fear, where the body is empowered to take on labor and birth. To land there, it is crucial to take birth education. To enroll into our unique labor and birth preparation course, reach out to us at www.birthagni.com or scroll through all available prenatal and postnatal preparation classes. Thank you for listening, all in the spirit of birth, womanhood, and freedom. Remember, you got the power. This podcast is about physiological birth and does not offer or claim to provide medical knowledge or diagnosis.
Starting a podcast with poor recording tools in the market? It was painful until I found Zencaster. Its high-quality audio and video recording, along with the option of a backup, makes it super sturdy and a savior at times. With an easy-to-use dashboard and super convenient tools for advertising campaigns such as reels and videos, Zencaster is my comfort choice. Go to zencaster.com/pricing and use my code BIRTHAGNI, BIRTHAGNI, and you will get 30% off of your first month of any Zencaster paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. You may also explore their free hobbyist plan to begin with.